What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you guys another video. Today, I'm bringing you guys a review on Power Rangers Beast Morphers episode 4, which is called Digital Deception. And oddly enough, we not only got this episode today, but at the same time this episode was airing, information went up online regarding titles and summaries for episodes 6 through 8, which is very cool. So I'll be posting a video about that with this one as well. So just keep that in mind if you want to know some additional information about what to expect in the coming weeks. I'll have that video up very, very soon, and should be really good. We'll talk about that in that video. So let's talk about Power Rangers Beast Morphers episode 4. This episode is called Digital Deception. Really good episode. A number of things happen, and again, they're really building on a really good story here. It doesn't feel like all these episodes are filler-like, which is something that was a big struggle for the Neo Saban era. This is another really good episode. So let me get into it. So the episode takes place during Valentine's Day in the show. Apparently, what we end up seeing at the very start is that Ravi is at the chamber area where Roxy, her real body, is resting inside the stasis chamber to keep her living and breathing and everything like that. And what happens is that he wishes he could really be with her and not have her in this chamber, and they were still together. And he thinks about how a year ago, when they met each other during Valentine's Day, they were really close to each other, and they loved each other, and yet, towards the end, like before she became evil, they had broken up and everything, but then her also turning evil made things even worse, obviously. So this is a very important point, obviously, because this is really what the story goes into. It's this whole entire idea of love and relationships and how things end up happening here. And what we end up seeing is that there's like a small flashback to their first meetup when Valentine's Day happened a year ago. And, we just get a sense of how much he really misses her and really cares for her. At the same time, what we end up seeing is that in the cyberverse or the location that the villains are based, we end up hearing that Roxy has a plan. Yes, for once, Roxy actually leads the plan. It isn't something that Blaze is doing. Blaze has been mainly been leading a lot of these plans for the most part, but this time around, Roxy has this plan because she realizes that she actually has retained her memories. Even though she's an avatar and a copy of the real Roxy, she still has the memories. She just doesn't have the emotions. Like, in other words, she understands what she felt for certain characters, but she doesn't feel any emotional feelings towards Ravi, for example. Like, she knows that she and Ravi knew each other, and she knew that they were in a relationship, and she loved him at one point, but she doesn't express those same feelings because she's evil, and she's an avatar. She's not a real thing. So it's an interesting concept right there. And what she does is that she thinks, I have this knowledge. The Blue Ranger has feelings for me. I guarantee it. I don't have feelings for him, but I can use this against him by making it so that he falls for me again, and then I can get him to turn on to our side, and then he'll become an evil Blue Ranger or an evil Blue Avatar. So what happens is that in this case, she begins to scheme her scheme where she goes down to Earth and she gets like the big computer system and puts in one of the Beast X keys that they have, the ones that she has, the villain ones. And she inserts it into the computer, and then she inserts it into a construction crane. And what happens is that what she does is what happens is that it suddenly turns into a big monster, and the monster, I believe, is known as Cranetron, if I'm not mistaken. I actually don't remember the exact name, but I did write it down. Shoveltron. Sorry, it's like a big shovel construction vehicle. So Shoveltron, and what happens is that it begins to attack Coral Harbor or whatever, and what we end up seeing is that there's some you know, it begins to get enough attention where the Rangers are called in because Nate is on the scene. He actually ends up picking up some flowers because he's getting them for someone that he has a crush on or has some feelings towards. And the thing is that the Rangers then call into action. They end up doing some unmorph fighting, which is great to see, obviously. I mean, who doesn't love that stuff? So we get to see that. One thing, though, that a lot of people were complaining about, because this is actually the preview clip, basically, is that some people were really complaining for whatever reason about how there's talking during the fighting. Yes, Neo Saban era seasons had a lot of talking during their fights, but this wasn't that bad. Like, honestly, Zoe had maybe 4 words that she said, and Devin said like three words. You know, people, you know, I understand that you just want to see fighting, but at the same time, it's like, you need to have some storytelling element. And I understand you just want to see a fight, but it's kind of important to see something. And it's not like she said a lot, or Devin, really. I mean, they didn't really talk that much. So we do see them fighting. And then what we see is that in the end, Ravi is going up against Shoveltron. And Roxy is there, and she actually puts something behind Ravi so that he falls back and trips over so that Shoveltron has the upper hand. But what happens is that Roxy stops Shoveltron from attacking and destroying Ravi, and she says, "Come on, let's go." And at that point, what happens is that Shoveltron and Roxy retreat, and Ravi realizes that maybe she still is good. Maybe she still has good inside of her. And so what happens is that at this point, you know, it seems like, what could this mean? You know, how is she really a good character? And what happens is that eventually, I believe there's some meetup moment where it leads to Ravi meeting up with Roxy, and basically she says, "Look, I'm not here to harm you. I'm just here to talk." But first of all, what happens is that we actually see back at Grid Battle Force that Nate is told by Commander Shaw that from now on he needs to have a babysitter or someone to watch after him because, you know, he doesn't have the same abilities that the Rangers do where he can defend himself. And if he's out in the open doing anything, he may get into a really dangerous situation. One thing I forgot to mention, this was because I completely forgot about it, was Ben and Betty. Ben and Betty at the very beginning of the episode were also in this episode. What actually happens is that they're delivering presents to the Rangers, and a bee comes by, and they begin to go after the bee because they want to get rid of it because it's supposed to be a sterile environment inside Great Battle Force, and so they begin to go after it. That's all I'm going to say about that because they show up at the very beginning and they show up at the very end. So just understand that now. I'll go back to them at the very end. So anyway, going back to what I was saying, yes, so Nate now has to be babysat. And at the same time, we end up seeing, as I was saying before, that Ravi ends up meeting with Roxy. And what happens is that Roxy says, "Look, I'm not here to attack. All I'm here to do is just talk to you. I managed to avoid some of the evil effects of Evox, and I'm here for you to, you know, completely fix things for me and, you know, bring me back. And what I need you to do is go into Grid Battle Force and get one of the neural aligners. If you use the neural aligner, the thing that made it so that I turned evil, you might be able to remove the Evox energy, like the Evox virus, from my body entirely, so that I'll become normal again and I won't be this avatar." And so what happens is that at that point, Ravi returns into Grid Battle Force, and he ends up talking to Nate about, "Hey, Nate, do you think the neural aligner could be used to bring back Roxy and Blaze and everything like that?" And what happens is that he says, "Yeah, I guess you're still thinking about Roxy," because again, he knows that Ravi really wants to bring back Roxy and have things patched up between the two of them. And so what happens is that he says, "Yeah, I think hypothetically it could work, but we'd have to do some testing and stuff like that." And what happens is that at one point Nate is busy doing something, and suddenly Ravi sneaks off with one of the neural aligners and brings it to Roxy. And what happens is that we end up seeing that he's going to let her have it. And what we see at the same time, though, is that Nate realizes that Ravi snuck off of it, and the other Rangers show up, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on? And they're like, wait, he asked about Roxy and the neural aligner, and it's missing. So what happens is the Rangers go after Roxy, go after Ravi, because the thing is that the place that Roxy and Ravi are meeting is the same location where the two of them met when they first met each other in the first place. And so the Rangers know this location, so they end up going to that location. But in the meantime, Ravi and Roxy are together, and what we see is that the neural aligner is used, instead of being used on Roxy, what actually happens is that Roxy is working with Shoveltron. Shoveltron holds Ravi down, and then Roxy puts over Ravi's head the neural aligner, which the idea is that with the powers in the Evox virus, she's going to try to turn Ravi into another avatar, an evil avatar and everything like that. And what happens is that he could have become that way, but Devin and Zoe show up, and the two of them end up, knocking out the neural aligner, and leading to Ravi realizing, like, what a mistake I did, trusting her and all that, and realizing, like, he still feels for her, but he thought he could trust her, you know what I mean? Like, it's heartbreaking in that way. So what happens is that at that point, the Rangers end up morphing, and they end up dealing with Shoveltron and some Tronics. What we end up seeing as well is that Roxy ends up summoning... Well, not Roxy, sorry. Scrozzle ends up summoning a Shovel Gigatron. And what happens is that... Oh, no, Gigadrone. So, sorry. A Shovel Drone, I think was called. And what happens is that Shovel Drone. And what happens is that at that point, the Rangers have to split up. Devin ends up going on Cruz, because Commander Shaw summons Cruz to show up and bring Devin into battle using the Racer Zord. And so he ends up going in with the Racer Zord and starts off in the basic form. He actually uses all three forms this episode. Like, we actually get to see the Racer Zord in its basic form, the Robo Racer Zord form, and also the Cheetah Racer Zord form. The Cheetah Racer Zord form allows him to dodge certain attacks and everything, which is very cool. But in the end, he does manage to finish it off with the Robo Racer Zord doing his finishing attack with the Cheetah Strike. So he does manage to finish Shovel Drone. At the same time, the other Rangers end up dealing with Shoveltron, and what happens is that both things is that while Ravi and Zoe end up defeating Shoveltron, Devin manages to finish off Shovel Drone, and it's this double explosion that happens, which some people were even saying that it's like I'm sure Jem and Gemma would be very honored by it, because it's like, it's boom time, you know what I mean? So that's a cool thing, obviously, and things are good there. What we do end up seeing is that from here, excuse me, back at Grid Battle Force, Ravi feels like, he wish he could have actually brought Roxy back in this case, but, they'll just have to keep working on it. But at the same time, Scrozzle back in the Cyberverse area is basically talking to Evox and says, like, if I can get the neural aligner, I can maybe bring you to life and, do some real damage and make things better for you and everything like that. And basically, Scrozzle is trying to make himself out to be even bigger and better than Roxy and Blaze. And it's some infighting, basically, which is something that we typically don't see a lot of times. Someone actually talked about that on Twitter recently, which is the fact that, like, this episode did that. Like, this episode went for the infighting with villains, which... Think back to last year with, not last year, 2 years ago even. Well, was it last year? I guess it was. It was last year with Madamodius. Like, remember how, there was Ripcon and there was Madamodius, and the two of them were trying to one-up each other so that they were seen as better than one another. In this case, they're really trying to do that here, and it's really great because you have these two groups of villains. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things will work out between these groups of villains, and like whether or not one will overcome the other or something will happen that way. But again, we have to wait and see. But yeah, so in other words, they're trying to one-up each other. At the same time, what we end up seeing is that back at Grid Battle Force, after Ravi is having his feelings towards Roxy. Zoe and Devin try to comfort him, and things are good. They end up heading through a hallway, and what happens is that Zoe is given some flowers by secret admirer, and we know who the secret admirer is, especially because he's seen in the corner kind of looking over and is like, and is very happy that she got flowers and she's interested. And the thing is that the secret admirer is obviously Nate does have a crush on her, so that's kind of sweet, and definitely something I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, seeing if it will really develop out, or how it may develop out just in general. But I do like it. I do like what they're doing with this. So again, very interesting. Looking forward to seeing more of that, and wondering when that will finally be something that she'll know of, because obviously he knows of it and he's the only one that knows of it right now, but I wonder when the others will begin to know that he has a crush on her. So that's kind of sweet. At the same time, we end up finding out from, I believe it was Commander Shaw, that apparently Ben and Betty are supposed to be in charge of unloading a huge truck full of items that were fan presents for the Rangers. And what happens is that they're actually inside of like some sort of warehouse or like cellar area, and they're actually trying to deal with the bee again. And in this case, they actually use some fly traps, like some sticky fly trap stuff on a sheet of paper. And what happens is that they're trying to capture the bee, and the two of them trying to deal with it, and at the same time they actually fall against the sticky fly trap paper, and they both get stuck to it. And then two bees are there, and one is on Betty and one is on Ben, and the two of them are just freaked out. And when Devin and Zoe and Ravi enter into the room, they're like, "Don't open the door," Ben and Betty say, and at that point the bees try to escape and everything like that, and it's just a goofy moment, but overall pretty cool episode just in general. Again, we still haven't seen the Megazord in the show yet. That is one thing to note, but it is good to see that we're seeing most of like we've seen now in one episode all of Devin's Zord forms. So like we've seen the Cheetah form, we've seen the Robo Racer form, and we've seen the regular Racer Zord itself. So that's all good. And we've seen the Gorilla Zord, and I think we've also seen Zoe's. We definitely have seen Zoe's at least once. So again, we're seeing stuff. It's just it may not happen that we get the Megazord till like maybe next episode or so, but we don't know for sure yet. Again, it's a little hard to say because of they may be doing things differently than what they've done in Japan, and again, certain stories are different in general as to what they like to do with things. So you really can't predict necessarily, because they can always mix things up and choose different episodes to have as a primary focus. So that's something to keep in mind. But just in general, really happy with this episode overall. Looking forward to seeing next week's episode. And as far as things go, from what it looks like right now, there doesn't seem to be any other like week hiatuses or anything like that. Like one of those ones where it's some random week where there's no episodes. At least not until the end of the season. And again, not at the end of the season, until the end of the spring part of the season. Which again, I said that I know up to episode 8. They may do more episodes for the spring part, but episode 8 is typically around the time when they tend to finish the spring season. So if they go off of that, then we know when the spring season's gonna be over. We don't know when the fall will start, but one thing at a time, obviously. So anyway, that's about it for me, guys. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you guys think. Did you guys like this episode? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? What things did you like about? What things do you think could have been better? Did certain things bother you? When do you think that everyone will know that Nate has a crush on Zoe? And what other thoughts or theories do you have for the show in general? Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye, guys.